Hey, it's Gadget UK here again, back with another video PC related. So you can see what we've got here. Well, you might be able to see from there, DIY kit XT IDE AT compact flash 8-bit ISA card for retro computers. Boot ROM, UK seller. So yeah, I think it's a Polish chap who lives in the UK and is now obviously a UK resident. So this came from Alice. AAPRO is the brand name. It says AAPRO, but I think it's AAPRO. Could be wrong. We've seen the AdLib card. Well, you may have seen the AdLib card. If not, it'll come up following this. Yeah, that was where I first became aware of this company. So they do, you know, kits and pre-assembled PCBs. So sound cards, IDE controllers, network cards, all sorts of different things, and lots of old retro kit as well, you know, original hardware that you can purchase. So yeah, this is a kit. The seller, Alice, I think it is, did me a really good deal on this. It was like, I don't know, 10% off or something. So yeah, it comes with a nice card there for that company. Perfect Hunt cat toys, handmade with love and passion. I'll check that out. That's quite cool. And I've got a little key ring here as well. That's cool, isn't it? It's a little PCB. I'm gonna have to find something to solder on there. I wonder if you can actually put something on it. I don't know, but anyway, that's nice. So yeah, thanks for that key ring. I will use that. And all the parts and things are labelled here. These are the dip switches, yeah. And then up here, you've got a checklist, presumably when the package in here, PCB board, bracket, screws, diodes, LEDs, components, you know, all the different things. I don't know about LEDs, there probably is an LED. So hopefully everything's in there. It feels pretty slim, so it's well packaged this. Let's just open this up. Yeah, so my plan is to just try this with a few different PC products here. In particular, the first one in this video is going to be the first two. The 2286 and the 2386 for the Amiga. So look at that, that's nice, isn't it? All the chips are in the right places, they just need soldering on. That's quite cool. It's got the dip switches there, positioned for something. That's already through socket position there, so I don't know. Don't know what's going on there. Maybe it's got position for an optional ROM or something. And then obviously you've got some, you know, 7.4 series, some GALs or something probably, and the dip switches to configure it. Yeah, I'm getting confused. That's the PCB, it's not through the PCB, so you've got a socket for the ROM. There we go, that makes sense now, doesn't it? And look at that, nice plastic bracket for the edge of it. We've got the pin strips there for the IDE cable, or the compact flash adapter. LED, some jumpers, screws for the thing here as well. I think there's one or two there. And then obviously you've got some resistors and caps and stuff here, maybe a diode or something, I don't know. Yeah, that's quite nice, isn't it? So yeah, I'm just going to fly through this. I'll show you some highlights. You've seen it all before on so many other assembly videos. It's going to be hopefully light work this. There's not a massive amount on this PCB, is there really? It's similar in quantity to maybe half as much actually as the AT bus card we got for the Amiga. That was an IDE controller for Zorro. I'll stick a link up there to that. So yeah, pretty easy to build, I think. I like these little Pac-Man things and fruits and things on it. It's quite cool, isn't it? Even a high score thing there, look. A lot of love gone into the design of this, and yeah, you'll have seen the thing there. In fact, I'll show you now. Assembled and made in the UK. Yeah, this is the card that set me off on this journey, so you can see fixed 2023, and it looks really nice. So the solder contacts were a bit worn here. It's had a bit of a hard life, this card, I think, but nevertheless, I was really impressed with this. It's just a basic AdLib clone. It says AdLib compatible hi-fi sound card for retro PCs. Yeah, but it gives really good quality audio output. I couldn't really notice any fuzziness or noise or anything in the background. Well, my hearing is not as good as it used to be. It sounds really, really good, and the OPL2 stuff is from that chip there, I think. It just sounds incredible. It's a really nice little card, that. If you're looking for an AdLib card, consider getting one of these, maybe in kit form, and build one yourself, because this can be built as well as a kit. Yeah, so we're going to be coming back to the stuff on here in a little bit, but let's just disconnect everything off here to free up the bench. So if you haven't already seen it, the A2386, that's what we're going to be using with this initially, and then I'll swap over to the A286 and just see what performance we get. I need a bit of glue on there, that's hanging off a little bit. But what I'm curious to test here is it any faster than the virtual IDE that I'm using from the TF536, which gives me just above XT level in performance. I'm hoping that despite that card being 8-bit, we'll get better throughput. And because it's got its own BIOS and stuff on board, in theory, it can support larger hard drives. Trying to fit, you know, a 4 gig drive, for example, well, DOS622 will support that in the way of a couple of partitions, because you can't go above like 2 gig, I think, with DOS622. But with an 8 or 4 gig compact flash card, you can have, you know, 2 or 4, well, 4 if you've got 8 gig, 2 if you've got 4 gig partitions on there, and you know, copy all your games and your installs and everything. With the virtual hard disk that Janus provides, where, you know, from an emulation perspective, you know, it's emulated by the CPU and the you know, the Amiga hardware. The largest partition size you can go, you know, file size is 32 meg. That's like a workbench thing, you know, a limitation. You can't go any bigger. Maybe you can go bigger with later versions of the OS and, you know, file drivers and all that, you know, for, you know, PFS and all that sort of stuff. There's quite a lot of different things you can change there. Maybe you can go bigger with those. I don't know. Not something I'm keyed up on or clued up on or whatever. So if you know, post in the comments down below. But certainly the Janus software, when you create a virtual drive and get the, you know, the Amiga to host that, it can be no bigger than 32 meg, which is a bit restrictive. Now you can add more virtual drives using, I think it's J-Link. It comes with the Janus software, and I've done that to create 2 or 3 more, but again, they're like 32 meg max, that's it. So it's blooming annoying. But anyway, once we get this in, I can go with a 4 gig compact flash card. In fact, I think I've got some 8s, so we'll go straight to an 8. So we get a nice little cheat sheet here. We've got the recommended order of assembly. We'll throw caution to the wind and ignore that. We know what we're doing. I don't think there's going to be a problem. It's a pretty straightforward build. And the dip switches there. Default switch positions work with most computers, it says there. It doesn't say what those dip switches do. I'm surprised at that. Oh, it does here, doesn't it? Yeah, sorry. I'm forgetting. We've got the dip switches there, look. So, yeah, we can play around with that. And it's going to be like the base address and, I don't know, port maybe. Yeah, RAM address and I/O port, just looking at that. And you've also got their image family. Olivetti and Friends, Buggy Amstrad DOS, 80 something IDE. Yeah. So anyway, there's a few different things there, isn't there? A few different options. Yes, let's just try and cut a sliver off there. I always do that, then I can try and reuse the bag, certainly if I get a nice straight line like that. And so let's get the wrist strap on. Yeah, I always wear wrist strap when handling ESD sensitive components. I mean, resistors and things you'd be alright with, and caps. Yeah, technically they can be affected by ESD, but you tend to find those things are all alright. You don't really get affected by anything like that. The semiconductors do. ICs and transistors, diodes, etc. Yeah, I'm not going to take everything out here because I'm going to get these part numbers all mixed up, aren't I? So, like, perhaps start with these caps maybe, or maybe the chips actually, I don't know. So my approach with things like this, usually I'll fit a socket for every single thing, but considering this doesn't come with sockets for these, I think we'll just solder them straight on. They're going to be alright. They look brand new. Each of these chips do look brand new. Yeah, just looking with magnification, we've got 74AHCT245s. Those are the same ones used on the Adlib card. 74F573. That's a latch, I think, isn't it? Might have a bus transceiver built in or something, that one. Another 573. A 688, that's magnitude comparator, isn't it, or something like that. So you can have, you know, 8 bits and then 8 other bits, and then when they match, depending on how they're set, you get an output enable signal, you know, an output that can drive something else. It's looking a bit fuzzy on top, that, like it's got a little bit of corrosion actually. Sometimes they do. From any supplier, it's not nothing to do with ours. There's another 688 there, so I've got another magnitude comparator. It's just there's 2 of those on there for the address decoding, presumably, and one for the port, you know, one for the base address. I think that's what those are for. An LSO4, that's an inverter, isn't it? And a HCT04, another inverter. An LS138, is that a multiplexer or a demux? I forget which. And a 74AHCT32, that's an OR gate. So yeah, anyway, let's get these things. I'm going to install a socket first. Why not? Why not? This is the thing I like about builds, is you can do them in whatever order you want generally. And I know there's a thing that says, you know, recommended ideal order of assembly. You can't really go wrong on this. There's nothing really squeezed next to each other. It's not like an SMD build with some SMD, some through hole. Of course, the one thing I do need to just have a think about is which side's the top side, which side's the bottom side. And I think with the silhouette here, this is where the components are going to go on this side. That would make sense. It'd be a bit crazy to stick them on the other side, so I'm just going to go with the most logical, which is always the way where when you see the outline here with the pin one, that's the way the socket goes on. So the ROM socket here, and this is another advantage with this, is that it's talking about drives, hard drives, size. Certainly the 2386 board, and I think it's the same with my 286 and 386 boards here. And that's the default BIOS that comes with them. Won't allow more than about 40 or 50 meg in terms of hard disk size. So you're knackered, even if you can find a hard drive or something that's in an old controller. It's not going to be you're not going to be able to go beyond a certain size, whereas you can with something like this. Well, I think you can. We're going to have to find out, aren't we? I'm just going to solder one pin and press it down as I solder it, just to get it nice and flat. Hold, and then solder the pin up here. It's worth inspecting before you commit to soldering. Just make sure all the pins have gone through on any chips and sockets and things, because if you get, I don't know, 2/3 way around and then you realise there's a pin missing, it pushed itself out here, you'll just have a lot of pain. And in fact, that's exactly what's happened a little bit. Can you see that pin there? It's not quite gone through the hole. It's protruding just a little bit here, which is strange, isn't it? It just happens to be the pin that I anchored as well. I'm quite surprised. It happened to the first pin that I solder. So I'm just going to press down with my little tool here. If we can, let's just make sure it's not soldered on the edge. I don't think it is. All the solder came off. No, it is. It's still soldered on there. Let me just give it another go. I'll tell you what, let's just take this off. It's not going well, this is what always happens to me. I've talked about this before. Whenever I get anything at all, I mean like anything in life, things that should be dead straightforward never seem to go straightforward for me at all. I'm just going to heat and pull that, because right now I don't know what is going on. Leave this off. Right, let's try that again. I've managed to correct that. I've managed to push it back into position. It's not damaged or anything. Let's try that again. Yeah, inspect all of your pins before you commit to soldering. Hold your PCB up to light as well, maybe just to make sure you've got all the relevant gaps in the right pins there, just in case there's a bit of solder somewhere. Yeah, so anyway, check everything as you go along at each step, and then you just avoid rework. I could have avoided that if I just checked before I soldered that point. I think that's a good example, really, of why it's worth checking, things like that. Now I could solder all the remaining points. You know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait until I've just got everything else in place. Like you can do the same with chips, position and just solder. In fact, let's just do that. Let's start getting those on. Really struggling to get that in. Let's have another go with that again. Yeah, part of me here is thinking I really should install some sockets for these, but I haven't got enough spare sockets, if I'm honest. I'm short of sockets at the moment. I'm waiting for my birthday because I usually get some vouchers from my family, and I'm going to order some more sockets when I get that. They're not especially expensive, but what happens with me is I run out of everything all at once. That's what's happened in the last month. I'm like, all the caps have gone low. I've got like literally none of anything left, and it's the same with sockets. I've gone through lots of small sockets and lots of medium and largish sockets as well. The sort of chips, the sort of sockets you would use with a gal like this. And pin 1, as you can see, is towards the top. There's a little semicircle on the chip, and you just match with the semicircle pattern there. Obviously get the right chip at the right spot. So I'm just going to anchor the remaining chips. I'll report back in a minute when all these are anchored that way, just with 2 points. Right, you can see we're getting there. They're all anchored, but obviously a lot of soldering to do. I'll just do that in one large hit. The next thing to do, I think, is maybe get all these caps on. There's a load of these ceramic caps here, and this should be pretty easy. They were marked in that bag, the bag that I took them out of, wherever that's gone. Yeah, there we go, 100 nanofarad C2 to C12, dead easy. I understand now why there was an older thing. The capacitor points underneath the chips. I've never seen that. Anyway, it really isn't a big deal. Because you could solder them from the top side like this. The leg positions are a bit tight there, I have to admit. So anyway, I'll show you what I mean. Just pull them. You want to get pulled straight out like that. This is why you read the instructions at the start, the instructions that I deliberately skipped past. And what we can do is just trim these right down like that and get them in from this side and just solder them on this side. So yeah, I'll report back in a minute when I've done that one, but they're just protruding by about, I don't know, half a millimetre, if that, just enough that I should be able to get it into position. Once I've cleaned with the toothbrush around that, that'll look fine. So yeah, there is an order, you know, stick your caps on first, trim your legs off, and then fit your chips and stuff on this side. Right, it was painful to get those caps on, if I'm honest, to do them first. Follow the instructions. I don't like following instructions, I'm a rebel. And let's get these resistors now. So we've got R1 to R9, I think 8 of them go here, so this should be pretty straightforward. The one thing I would say is that the way they're folded up like that, the legs get really, really bent, so if you want really straight, you know, tidy installation, although it's not that important, yeah, you have to spend some time, you know, straightening these and then bending them again appropriately. You can get tools to bend them, a bit like the 3D printed one we have for straightening legs. Yeah, you can get ones that will bend them appropriately for the gap, but these are not sort of standard sized bends, I don't think. They're quite low profile, if you see what I mean, you know, tight. Alright, that's R1 to 8 and R9. So I've got 10, 11, 12, we've got two of them there, 10, 11 I think, and 12 I think is under here. So yeah, it's another one of those, do it before you stick the socket on, is the best thing to do. But you know what, I'm not going to have any problems squeezing that in there, I don't think. One problem we may have here is the spacing is maybe a bit less than the other resistors. I could solder it on that side. Oh yeah, well, you could solder it on either side technically because it will fit under the socket. But anyway, I'm going to try and fit it there, like that, and bend it that way away from the socket edge. Yeah, so it's going to fit alright there, isn't it? And what we can do actually is just solder it this side instead of trying to wrestle with the solder points on the other side. You solder it here. Provided you've got flux and you solder, you'll get a nice little bead solder point there. I'll just inspect those to make sure it has actually flowed properly. Yeah, both of those are soldered fine. So then we can just carefully trim here. So yeah, I wouldn't need to do this if I'd followed the instructions. But as I say, I never follow the instructions with anything in life. I make mistakes, but sometimes when you make mistakes, because from not following instructions you learn something that you wouldn't learn any other way perhaps. So yeah, instructions for people that don't want to learn. So let's get that electrolytic on. The negative is indicated there on the band, and on the PCB, negative is towards the right side there. So it's going to go like that. I mean, you could, because it's like that, you could lay it flat. In fact, I'm going to do that, I think. You could lay it flat like that, so that it doesn't quite interfere with other cards and things like that. I mean, strictly speaking, the ROM's going to make it stick up a bit anyway, but you know what, I just want to do that. I think we'll just make it nice and flat on the board. We've got a jumper here. Now this is marked 5 volts. I'm not sure if you have to power this yourself. You shouldn't need to, because power should be coming from the edge there, so I'm not really clued up as to what this is for. Just soldering one pin there and heating my hand at the same time. Just trying to make sure it's as straight as it possibly can be. And actually I got that first time there. That's alright, we'll just commit to soldering the other pin. Don't heat these for too long, because certainly with pressure on the iron, because you can actually bend them out of position. That'll do. So that's that pin header on. And the LED, I always get these around the wrong way. It's like one side's longer than the other, isn't it? Is the longer the positive? I forget. That is D1. It's not even clear there as to so which one's the positive side of that either. I've got a 100% chance of getting this around the wrong way. Let's just try and illuminate this. Hang on. Not sure if this battery's completely flat. Yeah, that's a 1 volt battery actually. There's hardly anything left in it. Let's try with this one. It's not that way. It's that way, look. So that means the positive is the longer leg. Positive's the longer leg. But I'm not sure that helps me here because it says DL SL short long, yeah. Short, long, short. There we go. They've thought of everything. They've even marked it S and L, short and long. How cool is that? I've got to give them some kudos points for that. That is brilliant. There's me moaning about the legs and testing it on a battery and all that sort of stuff. You know, and you can test it on a meter. You know, you're gonna, if you ever put it on diode test, one probe on one pin, one on the other, you're going to get a forward switching voltage when you've got the red probe on the anode. If you get nothing, you've got them around the wrong way, or you can just, you know, flip the pins in terms of what you think they are to work out the anode and cathode. Anyway, yeah, I'm soldering that totally flush, which is not something I would usually do with LEDs. I'd raise them off a little bit, but I've like squished it right on the board there. And then there's these, which go to the IDE connector. I think that's all of the components, isn't it? The only thing, obviously, where I don't know where it's gone. Oh, it's there. There's the ROM. Oh, and the dip switch. We'll get the ROM on anyway. I'm not wearing a wrist strap just now, I should be doing, but it'll be alright. I'm not clued up here as to where pin 1 is on that. We've got to assume that pin 1's up here, because it's not marked, so, and the legs are a bit displayed there. That's one thing I would say, is maybe they could do that before they stick it in the foam, so that when someone sticks it in, it's going to go in alright and they're not going to get bent legs. Yeah, so it's even marked on here 1, 2, 3, blah blah blah, so because you could get that either way up and then confuse yourself and make 1 8 and 8 1, etc. So I lost a clip here showing you me fitting this, and it obviously went into the Amiga this way with the plate on the back here, you know, but obviously I've not fitted the plate at this stage. And they initially went with the default dip switch settings, as you can see there, like 1 and 4 up and all the others down. Yeah, and I'm going to go here with a compact flash adapter, so these will cost you a couple of pounds on eBay, and you just put a compact flash card in. I'm going to go with an 8 gig one into the adapter, and then we just need to plug that on. In order, because it's not keyed on the board, I think what I'm going to need to do is find out where the grounds are on here, and you'll usually have a pattern. There might be like a number of grounds in a strip somewhere, and or certainly a couple of them, certainly in the corners, and then measure on the board to the 7/4 series, I think, to work out where the grounds are, because it's not clear to me which way around it goes, but you'll see that later in the video anyway, which way it's mounted. It's basically, it adheres to the IDE standard, you know, it uses the ATA protocol or whatever it is there. It's better than spinning metal rust. It was SSD before SSD, really. You know, it's not quite as fast as well, it's nowhere near as fast as SSD. It's nowhere near as reliable as SSD. It's just flash, you know, hence the name compact flash storage. But it's a lot better than an actual hard disk. Right, believe it or not, the label was on the opposite way on that chip. So that chip was round the wrong way. And I didn't realise that, because as I took it out to check the jumpers and stuff, I realised something's pretty hot, but what's that? I realised the ROM was hot. And I pulled the label off. Yeah, and you'd expect the label with the prints, you know, sort of facing you. With pin 1 to the left, that isn't the way it was, so I had to rip that label off. I'll clean the top of that chip up in a minute. Not sure if the chip has just died. The Amiga did boot without that card, so it's not done any damage to the Amiga. So yeah, that's just something to note. I didn't see anything in instructions there. I could have missed it about that ROM. No, it doesn't mention anything about which way up that chip goes, but it does show the chip without a label, so you know what, I should have just pulled the label off. I assumed that the label was meant to stay on there. I'm not sure if you would get some message here somewhere. And we're getting freeze there. Why are we getting freeze there? I'm going to try it back on its default settings again. Yeah, so I might be getting a clash actually now with the Janus address, because I've just got no Janus data structure found or something. So yeah, I might need to change the base address and port and stuff of this, I think. Let's just see. Yeah, I think it's set to D000 as default Janus, isn't it? Yeah, look, no Janus memory structure found. I guess we should go to check it. Let's just run check it. I want to see what it reports in there in terms, maybe in configuration. Drive C34 meg. Not seeing anything about any interface. There's nothing listed there. Memory map. Video ROM. Yeah, see, so the video ROM's at C0 to C800. It must be that. So it must be there. So the question is, how do you use it? I don't know. Let's just do F-disk. Curious to see. Display. We've got partition, we've got that there. Shouldn't there be an option to change the fixed disk drive? But presumably it's only if it detects more than one. So we can't do anything there. So I don't know. Right, so a tremendous amount of messing around here. I swapped the ROM around obviously the right way, still wasn't working, changed the base address, wasn't working, port, not working. The other jumpers that swapped the ROM around, so you've got different custom ROMs and things I think there, because it's a 512k ROM with 3 or 4 different ROMs I think. That didn't make a difference and I was getting nowhere. So I thought let's just disable Janus, so I did that. And we got a message, you can see that XTIDE BIOS, it kicked in. So it's something to do with the Janus stuff clashing, and that's going to be for the fake hard disk, you know, the virtual hard disk that the Amiga is provided. So what I'm trying to do here now is just get the keyboard up, and I think I missed like a boot option. If we do Control Delete, there were some menu options at the top here. Let's just see. It's like in blue text. There it is. Hang on. I don't know. What's that? Run boot F8. I don't know. Have I missed it? I've missed it. I don't even know what you press. It's not exactly obvious, is it? If you've used XTIDE before, you'll know exactly what you're doing. I guess ROM boot boots from ROM, but ROM boot F8. No, that didn't do anything. So we've got. This is where it gets confusing. What's this? You've got A is A, C is C, F6 com detect. I don't know. Com detect? What's com detect? I thought this was going to be easy. I really thought this was going to be easy. F6. I don't know what that means. I mean, the thing is, it's detected a master down there, so we don't need to get into like a BIOS thing to change these settings. We've just got a master, SanDisk. It's detected it. F1 to retry boot. Well, that's just frozen. Oh god, my head hurts. My head really hurts doing this. I guess what I need to do is boot from DOS again and try and format it. Let's try and do that. And let's see what that does. I mean, it's not doing anything now, is it? It's just frozen, which is interesting. So I'll do Control Delete again. So I suspect I'm not going to be able to get XTIDE work alongside Janus. Could be wrong. says booting AA. These messages are really cryptic, aren't they? Booting CC, booting A to A. What does that mean? Presumably you can map different drives to A and different drives to C. I honestly don't know. And I don't know how you do it, because there's no instructions. I've got no instructions for this XT IDE stuff. I don't know whether the seller forgot to include something with it, or what. Anyway, let's just see what it reports here now. I'm hoping we've got an 8 gig drive. Return to do that, configure unallocated. Setup will now restart. Good old DOS. Oh, it's booting C now, look. Error loading operating system. Oh, please, God. I've now got to somehow change it back to A. How do I change it back to A? Do I press A? Let's try pressing A when it comes up. A? Yes, A. Floppy disk drive A. Formatting drive C. I always get worried when formats take place. Like, which drive C is it formatting? It can't be any other drive C. I mean, there's only the compact flash card there. Janus isn't even loaded, so it's not like it's formatting the virtual C drive on the Amiga. That can't be happening. And in fact, I'm looking at the compact flash card on the Amiga side here. It's not even doing anything. No activity. It's pretty quick formatting compact flash cards. That's one thing I do like about it. So I'm guessing at the end of this we'll end up with a C drive and then a load of unallocated space, and we can have a D, E and F probably. I'm pretty amazed that that ROM chip survived, actually, because it was like, you know, by the time I'd been inspecting the board for several minutes, changing jumpers, it was then I noticed the chip was really hot. And I'm like, how was that hot? That must have been absolutely insanely hot when I took it out. And I just didn't put my hands on it, didn't realise it, couldn't smell it. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, smell? You can't smell heat. You can when chips get super hot. Trust me. Right, I'll report back in about 3 years when it's finished copying the 3 discs. Oh, drum roll. I'm starting to get excited now. It's 90-something%, 97, 98. Watch it crash on the last file or something, and something go wrong. vsafe.com. Command.com. Remove all disks. Here we go. Let's see what happens this time. Hopefully, it's going to boot from the compact flash card now. Booting for C, starting MS-DOS. There we go. Didn't seem much faster than it was with the virtual drive, to be honest. We've got 2 gig free, so if we're going to F disk, that's what I'm looking for, just to see how much unallocated space we've got. Hang on, display for, yeah, usage 27%. So there we go. So we can create. We've got a bunch of more space there. Let's do create DOS partitional logical. We don't want to create a primary one, we want to create an extended one, don't we, I think. This is what it does. It allows 5577 as an extended partition, but not as a primary partition. So you do that, the full amount, there you go, full amount, 73%, and then you create your logical drives, and it'll list them here now probably. 2047, and then it'll do it again, 2047, and then something left over there. That's how you do it. It's just ages since I've done it. And then if we reboot, and we need to format D, E and F. But I used to do it all the time back in the day. So I'll just do format D. It's not too bad in terms of speed, that, to be honest. Considering that's 2 gigabytes, that ain't bad. What I can do now, you see, is take this compact flash card to the PC and the other one out my Pentium 2, and just copy everything from the Pentium 2 to my Windows 10 machine in a folder somewhere, and then copy it all across here, and then I've got all my games and demos and everything all on this compact flash card. In an ideal world, I'd be able to take an image of the Pentium 2 drive, which I do have, and then write it straight to this compact flash card. But compact flash cards are all different sizes. You can have one 8 gig compact flash card, take a backup image of it, try and write to another 8GB compact flash card and go, sorry, you're like 100 and something bytes short, which is painful. Format F. Yep. It's a smaller drive, that one. Right, so we're all formatted now. Haven't got any benchmarking software. I've got to check it on floppy. Let's stick that on there. Just because we can benchmark the drive, can't we, if anything? And we'll simply do an extra copy. We don't need a /s, there's no folders on there. The /s copies all subdirectories as well in that folder, the way they are with all the files within them. Anyway, there's only 3 files, that won't take a sec. Now let's just see how it performs. I can roughly remember it was like 110 to 115k per second on the virtual Amiga side. So if we do benchmarks, hard disk, C. So anything better than 100k here is probably acceptable. And actually I think that's going back pretty slow, to be honest. I might be surprised to find that the virtual stuff is faster. Has that died? Look at the card, no, it's still flashing. I think that's died. Must have died, I don't know, it's not coming back, is it? We haven't got smart drive loaded at the moment though, you know, and that could make a huge, well, will make a massive difference here. Alright, let me Control Alt delete that, because that's not doing anything. I'll load smart drive before we load it this time. It could just be that it was so slow, but I actually think that bombed. Let me try pressing C here. C. Now, you see the driver light's stuck on permanently. Something's gone wrong with that. Something's gone wrong with that. So we're going to have to PC reset it, I think. Right, PC reset it. Right, that's better. Because before it froze at the master bit, didn't it? Yeah, it's like it was stuck in some weird loop or something, I don't know. Right, let's just do, what's it called? Smart drive. And in fact, you're supposed to do smart drv /x to disable right behind caching. I'm not sure that's actually made a difference there. Anyway, we've got a huge cache there now, so it should be quicker. The main thing is it going to freeze again? It's funny it didn't freeze using, you know, normal usage. 5C. So I'm looking at the LED, and yeah, it's just on all the time. So I think there's some sort of issue there. I don't know what. And literally a few seconds later it did come back. So it is a lot quicker. It's 3.66 times an IBM XT. And I'm trying to see where it is now. Yeah, the transfer, over 300k per second. It was only 100 before. So you know what, that is 3 times faster than the Janus virtual stuff. I mean, it says at the bottom there, 310.9k per second. So you know what, that's not bad. So I guess the next thing I need to do is try and get Janus working again. So let's load Janus at A000, shadow it, click save. Okay. May need to reboot the whole Amiga actually, do PC reset. Will the order of things make a difference? Because this IDE is at D something and Janus is at A something, will this kick in before the Janus does? Or does Janus just sort of inject itself at... Oh no, it does, that works, look. But then it's going to boot from that instead of Janus, isn't it? This is the complication, I think. And actually, it didn't say the Janus stuff had loaded. And this is the thing, so I probably need to now power cycle the whole machine. And I'll bet now we don't get the XT IDE again. I'll bet it's just gone. And we're now back to just Janus working on its own. Yeah, the two are incompatible. And it goes beyond that. The VGA card starts to cause problems. What happened there was, I set the Janus handles you saw to A000. Then the VGA card, when it booted up, said 256k. And then Janus didn't load. I'm like, well, so now the VGA card is clashing with Janus. So I've set it back to D000. And now Janus has worked. But this is the virtual hard drive. Yeah, there we go, it's got my games and stuff on it. It's not the other one, the XT IDE. And the XT IDE, we can't invoke the drivers on it. I don't know, maybe there's a way you can do debug. If you know the address, you might be able to, I don't know. I don't think you can do it that way. It's not possible to use the two together, it seems. That's unfortunate. There might be a way, I don't know. I don't think there is though, because what's actually happening here is Janus is inhibiting the auto boot functionality, if you like, of the other BIOS. That's what's happening. It's not like they're overlapping, they aren't. I don't think they are. I'm sure I said it's a completely different address. Mind you, the Janus stuff might extend quite far and wide. It starts at D000, doesn't it? I think at the moment I've got the jumper set to somewhat like DC00, but maybe that space is still used. I might try CC00. Let's try that. Off, on 1, 2, 3. Off, on 1, 2, 3. One way I think this kit could be improved, there's very little I can find wrong with it, is the dip switch thing here. Instead of sticking it on something, a sticky thing, just put it on a piece of paper and include that in there, because you know what? You can see I've ripped mine off because I'm just going to just stick it down on here and then cut it out, I think. So I've had a look at the A2386 card, because that's what we're testing it against at this moment, to see which base addresses and things and ports and things are in use. And some of this information will overlap in the, I'll be sharing it the same in the A2386 video. Yeah, so I was looking at the base addresses and stuff used by Janus. You've got two base addresses you can choose from, haven't you, for the handler. You've got the D0000 range and you've got the A000 range. But the bottom line is I needed to find somewhere to map it, a base address and a port. And yeah, there's just a few things that I thought overlap here, so I'm covering them in this video, but I'm covering the same sort of things in the other video as well, in a different way. So we've got a VGA card. I did wonder where that's at. Now, VGA cards, I was looking, has got like 4 different common page, base addresses they sit at, depending on which page mode it's in. I think there's like 2 bits that dictate those 4 different modes. You've got 128k block of memory, and then it starts at A000. And this is the thing: if you've got a VGA card, you set this to A0000. It overlaps with the VGA, and the VGA might then map itself somewhere else, and you end up with, I don't know, less RAM, 256k on a Super VGA card like that versus 512k. And the same thing holds true of this. If you try and map this into the area that the VGA card uses, you find that the VGA card's intelligent and moves itself a little bit, and you end up with 256k reported by the BIOS on boot, the VGA BIOS that is, rather than 512k. So you can start to get an overlap with VGA and Janus. Yeah, if you set the A000 quadruple 0 range when you've got a VGA card. Now, if you've just got like a really old VGA card, that might not be too much of a problem, because it's all about, this card's got 512k. VGA, I think, technically can be as low as 128k. Could be wrong. And of course the other issue then is the D0000 range. That can clash with some IDE cards and other things, and that's what the problem is with this, ultimately. So the A000 range here clashes with VGA. The D00 range, that works fine with VGA, obviously. The card that I've got here, the AT card, I'll show you the dip switch sheet in a minute. They all seem to be in this range, and this is the key here. You can see it starts there, that's the base address, but it goes right up to the D4Fs. And this is the thing, so the I/O ports, I've just checked, yeah, there's quite a lot of I/O ports here you've got to avoid when you're sticking up any kind of upgrades, expansions and things into an ISO slot. Yeah, so I've got mine set to 380 at the moment. You can see we've got 3.7, that's used. 380 isn't, 3B Yeah, 3D. So there's quite a lot of gaps and things, but there's also quite a lot of ports. In fact, some of these here, look, are only used if you're using MDA or CGA. So the port's not a clash for my IDE XT, you know, PC IDE thing here, but the base address is, and we don't really have any options, do we? The only other thing I could think is maybe modifying the IDE card so that it's using a different address, but then you might need to update the BIOS on it. You know, like modify the BIOS if you stuck it somewhere else. And I'm not even sure how much flexibility you have there. You know, there's a finite amount of address space within the, you know, the 1 meg, if you think about it, standard PC architecture there. You know, this is why paging was used for so many of these things, you know, in 16K or 64K blocks, etc., for the ROMs and for the RAM and everything, because of the way that architecture was originally set up on the original 8088, etc. Of course, you got real mode and stuff, I think it was, in the 386 onwards and stuff, and, you know, modern operating systems don't use the old school way of the paging for, you know, memory and stuff. But anyway, and the other aspect to this is when you boot Janus up, when you're sharing a hard drive and the Janus loaders there, that seems to intercept calls to other IDE devices, you know, other BIOSes like this, yeah? So the BIOS for this never pops up, the message never comes up. Doesn't matter what base address I set this to, it never turns up, because that's how the Janus handler's working. I think it's going, I'm an IDE controller, I'm grabbing control here, kind of, you know, at the relevant point in the boot process there, and it never passes anything off to this, so you never ever see the BIOS thing for this. If you disable the Janus handler, yeah, and then reboot the Amiga, because you have to do that whenever you change the Janus settings, it boots up, and then it boots up with the menu here, and you can choose, you know, C or A or whatever, to boot from that. So I'm not sure at this stage if there's a way around that. I honestly don't think I can get an XT IDE card working alongside the 2386 or the 2286 probably if I use the Janus handler. And what does the Janus handler provide? Well, I think the keyboard stuff works regardless of that, but I think the Janus handler is primarily for the video, passing the video, CGA and MDA, mono display adapter, CGA color graphics adapter, but we're not using that, we're using VGA, so no loss there. And I think possibly, and this is where I need to check, the A-read stuff, the virtual hard disk obviously definitely doesn't work. Yeah, you don't get a virtual, you know, a drive there, C drive, when you've got the Janus handler disabled. And you'll probably lose the J-Link stuff as well, which again is just, you know, virtual drives provided by the Amiga side in the form of a flat file or something. So that might not be, you know, depending on what you're doing, that might not be a big problem for you. You might be like, it's alright, I'll just go with XT IDE. I'm not interested in the Janus stuff. As long as the keyboard still works and the mouse, I haven't tested that. As long as the keyboard and the mouse side of things still work, I guess that's all you would really care about. So it might not be a big deal. Anyway, the main thing is it does work, and the performance isn't that bad, yeah? But I was thinking about this whole thing about the, you know, this sticking out here, I don't want it that way. So I thought, well, let's just try and fit a right-angled one. I quite like that blue one, but, yeah, I may go with the blue one, actually, but I've got a black one here. I just want to just check these. Are they both the same in terms of the keying? Yes, they are. So they've got the gap cut out there. Let's just carefully just pull this off. Yeah, and the key on this thing here is plugged in at the top, look, so we want the key at the top. What I'm trying to do here is just work out if we soldered this on here like that, and this is the problem now, it's going to be on the wrong side, look. That's so annoying. You'd have to have it facing downwards, and then of course if you have it facing downwards you're going to have a problem fitting it on here because the chips. If I could cut out a key there, yeah, and maybe even stick the piece of plastic back in that side there, I don't know, because then we could use it like that way, yeah, and solder it on there and it would face upwards. But then again, do you really want a card sticking out like that in your PC? I mean, it would fit actually. Most PCs, they're pretty deep. It's not like the lid of the PC ends here. You find that you've got quite a large case in them, so I don't know, there is advantage in it pointing upwards like that. Yeah, you can see it's really fluxy under there. We'll clean that up in a minute, but yeah, and this label needs coming off here. I don't know if we fit it like that. You see, it's going to be, I mean, if we put it in line there, yeah, the chips are going to interfere. That's the problem. that way up. And the final thing that did just cross my mind, and it's making my head hurt trying to work this out. The reason I'm saying it's got to go this way is this is the key bit, yeah. But if you imagine, yeah, it's not static safe here. If you imagine it being like that, yeah, this is the thing. The pins, you know, they come out and down, out and down. So it's got to go this way, yeah, which means it has to be soldered on that way. If you solder it on that way, you've transposed all the connections. But one thought that did cross my mind, and I don't know whether this would work or not, this is the bit that's making my head hurt. If we put it on that side, there, would that be the right way? Let me just try and work this out. So like this one here is that top one there, isn't it? Yeah? And when you solder it on that side, no it's not, no it's the bottom one I think, hang on. Yeah, top to top. Yeah, now it's the bottom. And of course it's all a moot point in general. I'm not being critical of this in this video here, because you just stick a cable on. Most people might just run a cable there to something like this on you know, a PC edge, yeah, card slot, so you can stick it in a slot somewhere on your PC and access your compact flash card from the outside of your machine. So if you've got a cable there, you haven't got an issue, have you? You know, a female to male cable here. No issues at all. And again, you could have just a short length one here and have this floating around somewhere inside, not an issue. But just for me testing, you see, I always like these things where they sit upright like that, because then it's convenient for testing. It doesn't mean something's sticking out somewhere. And you know what, I'm going to go the extra mile here. It's going to be infinitely more useful to me for testing to have this on the other way. And you can see what I've done here. I've pulled the first pin out, yeah, flipped it around. Yeah, I've not thought this through ever, because that one is longer than this pin, so that's the one that needs to go at the top, and then this one needs to go there, facing that way. Right, so the removal of the pins, I've just decided to just keep going along and remove them all, and then sticking them in is dead easy. What I would say is one or two of these, in fact I can see nearly all of these, I've got like slight bend in them, just as a result of trying to pull them out. So I am having to just marginally, you know, squeeze them like this. Hang on. I think we're on the third one down, are we? Can't honestly see. Yeah, I'm doing it level like this just to get... It's blocked already, it's just... No it isn't, it's working. Yeah, I'm doing it sideways like this and tilting down slightly just to get better suction into the chamber. Yeah, I went over those a second time with the dissolve station on every pin, but again, you know, they feel like they're not free. This is the thing. Ah, there we go. So let's move that out of the way. So you can see we've got no damaged pads there. Maybe there, that might be damaged, I don't know. I don't think it is, I think it's just a bit of solder. I know we've obviously got a couple of pins that need to come out of there now as well. So halfway through, they're all totally level with each other there, yeah, and it's going together all right. Woohoo, we are there. Oh, hang on a minute, I've got to be careful here now because I've got one I didn't make earlier, but you can see now the key is on the top on that one, it's on the bottom on this one, and I forget which one it was that I just made actually. I think it's this one. Yeah, I think we need to do safety in numbers compared to this one. This is the point where what I don't realise is one of these was flipped to start with or something, and I mixed them all up. So I've got, yeah, two like that with the things on the top, look, the pins coming out the bottom, and then we've got mine with the cut out there, the key bit on the bottom there, so that's quite cool. Anyway, yeah, so let's try and get this on now. Probably going to need some tweaking, I think. Oh, hang on, it's going to try on. he says, as it struggles to go straight on. Ah, we're going to relocate that. I forgot about that. I'm going to relocate that on the other side and then trim the points really short here, just so that this can fit nice and flat and flush. Right, so relocate on the underside, and we got that on. But this is the point now where you can see my work with the pins was not quite right there, because this is sloped that way, just marginally. But the benefit is we can obviously just press here, just marginally, carefully. Might have to get a little bit of white acrylic paint onto this, because there's a point down here where there's a little bit of copper, tiny little bit, but anyway, we can do that. I think the larger question is, am I going to be able to remove all this flux? Because you know what, when I cleaned with cotton buds here after I removed the pin strips, it was still a bit yellowy around there. It's like it just wasn't coming off. That's just a consequence of the flux that I'm using, so this is where we find it soldered into here now. Oh no, there we go. So yeah, nice and straight, all the pins protrude the same height there, and that's nice and straight and square, it's flat and flush, and obviously we relocated that there. So the final thing, other than just testing now, is to clean it up. But as I say, the whole point to this is it's not something that's required really, but it is for me, because that's now not going to cause me any slot problems in any of the systems I'm testing here. But it may do inside a PC, because the lid might come somewhere here, yeah, and you're not going to be able to fit it. But like in a 4000, it'll fit like that, or a 2000, or I don't know. 2000 case is really deep, so that won't be a problem. And of course, I could still connect a cable there and fly off via a cable. But that's what I would do, you know, if you just bought the standard kit. But you could get yourself a 90-degree thing like this, like I've done, and fit one. You might have to modify it, because I don't even know whether you can get them with the key on the other side. Everything there, it's detected the drive, it's booting from the drive. I see the LED flashing on it, so that's cool, that works. I'm going to go copy a load of games to that card now. Yeah, I think you'll agree that it doesn't look bad actually. When you get any streaks at the end, just do a bit of that with a clean brush, and you'll find you get any bits off it. There's something up here. It looks like a bought one, doesn't it? There's barely anything on that now. Very pleased. Fit one of those, you know, obviously let's probably screw it from the top side so that the metal screws go through the holes there, like that I think. But you could, well, I don't know, you could mount it the other way and have the screws from the underside coming through. It will overhang a little bit, you know, when they're screwed in. But anyway, I'm going to be using it on the bench for the moment, so I'll just put that out of the way with all of the other stuff inside the box. Ultimately, because of the memory space, as I mentioned before, in a system like this, you've got hardly any gaps to be able to plug it. There's only like 2 options, and either one of them can clash with either Janus or the VGA card. So yeah, I was a bit limited. But in a normal PC, you might have a little bit more freedom there to configure it into address space a little bit easier. And I think the options down here are for the multiple ROMs that are contained on the EEPROM there. Well, it's actually an EEPROM. But yeah, you've got 4 different positions, basically 4 different custom BIOSes, you know, 4 different lots of XT IDE. From what I understand, I think that that's what this is doing. These dip switches here are switching the upper address bits on that ROM. Yeah, so overall, I think it's an absolutely amazing product for the money. It's really good value for money. You know, it came out really well. You can see, you know, it's a little bit yellow in here because we took that connector off and replaced it with one that's that orientation. The things that I would suggest to Alice, if it's assuming it's Alice that's the person behind these at AAPRO, I would fit one of these rather than the pins straight up this way, because it just allows someone to put an adapter in there really easily. It's always better to have your IDE coming upwards like that rather than outwards, because another card would clash, if you see what I mean, unless you've got a cable. But the quality of the components and things really, really good. Very pleased with it. It'd be nice if it's the same point I made on the AAPRO Adlib card, if these were gold plated rather than nickel or silver or whatever it is. It's probably not silver, it's nickel or solder coated. I think they're Hassel, you know, hot air surface leveling. Read the instructions, because if you fit these things on the underside here first, you can cut the legs nice and flush on the other side. I just cut them really short, just so they were just long enough to just sort of, you know, go into the PCB. But it works really well. You know, we've got 3 times the performance there with the 386 card. I haven't tested it in any of the PCs at this stage, but we'll come back to using this in 1 or 2 of the other PC things that are coming onto the channel in the future. But some of those things might be a few months away. You've got loads of Amiga things and Sony things and Sega things and all sorts of bits coming up. But yeah, the end result, it came out fantastic. I'm really pleased with the end result, and I'm pleased with the performance. It's annoying that I couldn't get it configured to work alongside my virtual drive hosted by the Amiga. You know, the Janus is the thing that clashes, so you've got to disable Janus in order to fit this. But Liv2 did point out to me, and this is something we'll cover perhaps in the 386 series later on, that you can configure Janus to use XT IDE. It kind of appends it, I think, to the Janus handler or something like that. You stick it in a certain folder on your workbench setup where some of the Janus stuff's held, you know, and when you boot it, you should be able to get XT IDE to appear that way. So yeah, we haven't finished looking at it yet, but yeah, very pleased with that. Massive thanks to AAPRO for the 10% discount I think they gave me. Much appreciated. I hope you found that interesting. I'll catch you in the next video.